Hi, Algebra 2 fans. Today we're looking at the notes for section 1.4, absolute value. What is absolute value? Absolute value is the distance from 0. Absolute value means the distance from 0. What do we know about distance? Distance is always positive. You should know that from your geometry class. What is the absolute value of 4? It's a positive 4. What's the absolute value of negative 4? It is also a positive 4. And if we think about that on a number line, here's negative 4, here's positive 4. What's this distance? It's 4. And what's this distance? It's also 4. Evaluating some absolute values, what we're going to do is we're going to make some substitutions and then take the absolute value. So we have the absolute value of 3y plus 1. Remember parentheses, we talked about those being groupings. Absolute value bars is also a grouping. So we would do what's inside the absolute value bars first. That would count as a parenthesis for our order of operations. We're going to replace the y with a negative 2/3. Remember, if you make a substitution with a negative, always put it in parentheses so you don't lose that negative somewhere along the line. 3 times negative 2/3, the 3's cancel, so we're left with negative 2 plus 1. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. And then finally, we'll handle the absolute value. The absolute value of negative 1 is positive 1. If we look at number 2, the absolute value of a minus b if a equals negative 3 and b equals negative 5. So we'll have the absolute value of negative 3 minus b, which is negative 5. So minus a negative right here, minus a negative, that really becomes plus. So negative 3 plus 5 is 2. The absolute value of 2, is just a plain old 2. If we have an absolute value equation, the absolute value of x equals 7. What are two possible values of x? Well, x could equal 7 because the absolute value of 7 is 7. X could also equal negative 7 because the absolute value of negative 7 is also 7. So we have two solutions. Notice we have two solutions. Let's say we're going to solve for x, and we have the absolute value of x minus 10 equals 12. So what could go inside those absolute value bars? The absolute value of what is equal to 12? Well, the absolute value of 12 is 12. Also, the absolute value of negative 12 is 12. So the part inside the absolute value bars, the x minus 10, could equal 12, or it could equal negative 12. What are we going to do? We're going to solve each equation separately. Over here, we'll add 10 to both sides, and we get x equals 22. Over here, we're going to add 10 to both sides, and we get x equals negative 2. Now you say, whoa, Mrs. Mack, I thought you said that absolute value distance always positive. Yes, 100% said that. However, our variable can be negative. Our variable can be negative. But when we plug it in and take the absolute value, we will end up with a positive. But you can have a negative along the way. Now remember, you can always check your answers. Plug in the negative 2. Negative 2 minus 10 is equal to negative 12. The absolute value of negative 12 is a positive 12. Whoop, whoop. It works. Okay? Again, notice there are two solutions, x equals 22 or x equals negative 2. So let's try another one. Solve for y this time. 8 equals the absolute value of y plus 5. If the absolute value is equal to 8, then inside those absolute value bars can be an 8 or can be a negative 8, because the absolute value of 8 is 8 and the absolute value of negative 8 is also a positive 8. Therefore, what's inside these absolute value bars can equal either 8 or negative 8. We're going to solve two separate equations here. Subtract 5 from both sides. We get y equals 3. Subtract 5 from both sides here, and we get y equals negative 13. Again, two solutions for solving an absolute value equation. So what about the next one? We've got the absolute value of 3x minus 4 equals negative 10. What's different about this one? Think about it for a second. What's different? So here we have the absolute value of 3x minus 4 equaling a negative 10. When will the absolute value of something equal a negative? It doesn't happen. The absolute value will never equal a negative. So no matter what value you plug in for x, if you take the absolute value, you will never get a negative 10. So in this case, then, we have no solution. Let's try another one. Now we've got the absolute value of 2x minus 7 plus 3 is equal to 8. So what's different about this one? Notice that we have this plus 3 outside the absolute value. Okay, so we've got more than just absolute value equals number. We've got this extra plus 3. So what do we have to do? We have to get rid of it. Why? We need to get the absolute value by itself first. So the first thing we're going to do when we solve this one is we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. That gives us the absolute value of 2x minus 7 equals 5. Now, it's exactly like the ones that we did up here, number 4, number 3. Okay, so what does that mean? That means inside the absolute value bars, the 2x minus 7, that could either equal a 5, or the 2x minus 7 could equal a negative 5. Notice what's inside the absolute value bars, the 2x minus 7, stays the same. That does not change. Then what? Well, then we're going to solve two separate equations. Here we'll add 7 to both sides. That gives us 2x equals 12. Again, this one's a little bit different because we had a coefficient on the x. Divide both sides by 2. We get x equals 6. On the other equation, we're going to add 7 to both sides. We get 2x equals 2. We'll divide both sides by 2. We get x equals 1. Again, two solutions. Next one. What do we have here? Remember our blue highlighted rule, we have to get the absolute value by itself first. So if we look at this one, we have this extra 2 out front. So the first thing we have to do is get rid of that 2. It's held together with multiplication. So we're going to divide both sides by 2. The 2's cancel, so we're left with the absolute value of 3x minus 5 equals 4. Once we have that absolute value by itself, we take the inside the absolute value bars, the 3x minus 5, and we set that equal to 4, or we take the 3x minus 5 and set that equal to negative 4. Notice what was inside the absolute value bars does not change. Okay, 3x minus 5, 3x minus 5, 3x minus 5. Then what? Then we solve each equation individually. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. We'll get 3x equals 9. Get rid of that 3. It's held together with multiplication. So to undo the multiplication, we will divide, and we get x equals 3. On the other equation, we're going to add 5. We get 3x equals 1. We're going to divide both sides by 3. The 3's cancel, and we're left with x equals 1/3. Again, notice, two solutions. And last but not least, number 8. What do we notice about number 8? Ooh, this is a jumbo problem. We've got this 6 out front we're going to have to get rid of, and we've got this minus 9 out back we're going to have to get rid of. So we have to get rid of those things first so we can get the absolute value by itself. All right, so we're going to add the 9 first to both sides. So we'll have the 6 still. The absolute value of x plus 10 equals 16. Then what? Then we have to get rid of the 6. Divide. We get the absolute value of x plus 10 equals 16 divided by 6. We can reduce that by 2. That's 8/3. Now what? Now what's inside the absolute value bars, we can set that equal to the 8/3. Or what's inside those absolute value bars, we can set equal to negative 8/3. Again, notice the x plus 10, the part inside the absolute value bars, does not change. Then what? Well, let's subtract 10 from both sides. X equals 8/3 minus 10. 8/3 minus, I need 10. Common denominator is 3, so 10 is 30/3. So that gives us negative 22/3. Your fancy calculators can handle that for you. I don't have one of those with me. Actually, I don't even really have the fancy kind anyway. Subtract 10 on the other side. Remember, we're solving two separate equations here. So now we'll get x equals negative 8/3 minus 10. Again, get that common denominator of a 3, so that's 30/3. So that leaves us with x equals negative 38/3. Again, two solutions. And I think that was the last one. That's the last one. So give the homework a try. Make sure you get the absolute value first by itself before you split it into its two equations to solve for those two solutions. And remember, the absolute value of anything is always a positive. Okay? Good luck on the homework, and when I see you again, we'll go over any questions you have. Thanks, guys. Bye.